Welcome, everyone, to Two Off the Tee. Man, it has been a minute on Fantasy Six Pack since we've done a show.
Absolutely.
No, we did not go into retirement. No, we did not get canceled. For those watching on YouTube, that is not Alan with me. He's still doing big time things with ESPN Richmond. But I have my good friend and host of the Inside Drive on ESPN Northwest Florida, Monday through Friday. What, 11 to 1 Eastern?
Central. Yeah. 11 to 1 Central.
11 to 1 Central. I always get it confused. Stupid time zones.
It's just 1 hour, but it's still very confusing.
Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Excited and kind of sad at the same time, but there's so many things that the Open Championship represents. It's kind of your golf season's coming to an end. The playoffs are right around the corner. But when the Open's on, that means that big F word's right around the corner too, and that always gets everybody excited. So a lot of things, a lot of feels you kind of get with the Open Championship. But yeah, and it's always fun to be able to watch golf in the morning. It's just a rare time that you get the opportunity to do that. I know we had the Scottish Open last week, but it's a little different with the Open Championship, no doubt.
I love it. I think it was Saturday. I woke up early. It was like 5:45, and I forgot, oh yeah, I can go on ESPN Plus and watch golf, which is just amazing. Live golf. Do you think they got it right swapping these majors? We've had now a few years to open. You like it being the last one?
I totally agree. I think it's you're going back to the home of golf, yada, yada, yada. And I just love, we've talked about it before, but I love how they move the PGA, the players up. So you go players, Masters, PGA, US Open. I just think it's a nice 5-month stretch of where we now get to see, quote unquote, the best players in the world compete against one another.
Yeah. So we're going to, me and Ryan, and just so you guys know, Jay, Ryan's co-host, we thought he was going to join us. In his defense, he never responded to text.
And this is very much how it is on the Inside Drive as well.
So maybe Jay will show up. I don't know. Like I said, Alan had some family stuff come up. Yeah. So we do miss him, though. And again, you can check him out on ESPN Richmond. But the Open, so many storylines. We got Bryson coming in with all this momentum. Scheffler, who is having arguably one of the greatest seasons ever, kind of the forgotten man, I think, entering this week because he decided to take 5 weeks off after his last win.
Understandable when you got a new baby and you just win every tournament you're pretty much playing. So earn that right, no doubt. Getting ready
pretty
for
crazy. Robert McIntyre, to me, like young player, elite record, on links courses. Players have had a lot of success that did well at the Scottish Open. The following week at the Open Championship. He's already got 2 top 10s at the Open. He's only like 26, 27 years old. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in contention. That would be a great story. Morikawa, Mr. Morikawa. Sorry.
Yeah, look at you.
I was on the Inside Drive for a second.
Yeah, just bring it back.
I mean, God, I think his worst finish is 12th since like March or something insane, but yet no wins for a guy already with 2 majors. And then we have all the live guys. Rahm is, admittedly had a terrible year. He's been struggling. Koepka also, new daddy. He's kind of, had a down year as well. Oberg, if he can figure out Sundays, would already have like 5, 6. There's just so many storylines coming into this venue, coming into this last major. And I'm with you. I do worry that what happens if we end up getting, and I love Brian Harman. I picked him. It was a great week last year, but that was kind of a dud. Like, that's not the tournament that I want this
Had
year.
you not picked him and not had the excitement of picking a winner, I think it probably would have felt more like if just like, Brian Harman kind of ran away with this thing and got it done.
I would have been furious. Instead, I was just basically checking my bank account to see when that, transaction hit.
I remember this Open last year. You had a really good week. I remember that.
Go Dogs.
Yeah. There you go.
So we're at Royal Troon, which has not hosted. It's been a long time. Has not hosted.
Like 8 years-ish?
Yeah, 2016, the duel. Phil Mickelson, Henrik Stenson.
Yep.
It's funny that I forget that the weather was crazy good that week. And this was a scoring fest, even though this is a venue that it does give up a lot of birdies. But most of them are early, and then you kind of hold on, especially from kind of holes 9 through 18. We've had mostly American winners here, which is interesting. I think it's 7 out of the last 8 have been Americans. This is a typical links course. I've read, very similar to last year's venue at Royal Liverpool. So I would lean into the results from last year. That's kind of a good indication. We've got a lot of undulation in the fairways, a lot of trouble, hazards that you would not consider hazards over here in the States. We're talking about, pot bunkers, gorse bushes. Yep. And I mean, really luck's going to play a factor on a lot of these shots to where you'll hit one ball and it's 5 feet left or right, it's fine. And it ends up, just dead, where you're either punching out, or if you don't, make the right move and just try to get it out, you can end up making these huge numbers. The wind is going to be a huge factor, it looks like. Have you seen the forecast?
I had. So it looked like it was kind of blowing 15 to 18, gusting up a little bit. And I think the biggest chance of rain was on Saturday from what I looked at.
So, I mean, I kind of enjoy this. Again, I think you do as well. It's the Open. I'm at home. It's 100 degrees in Georgia. I got the AC going. I don't mind watching guys getting their rain gear on and off, having shit blowing around in the back. It's good for them. What separates this course from other links courses is the size of the greens. And I think that's one of the most significant things to look at this week. And I know I did when picking my DFS plays, my gambling plays, is these greens are roughly a fourth of the size of St. Andrews, to give you any indication. That is tiny. I mean, I know St. Andrews has massive greens, but then think about a quarter of those greens.
Kind of the other end of the spectrum,
So approach is obviously huge factor this week. Scrambling, again, you want somebody who's very good around the greens. And then I did look at a lot of putting inside 10 feet stats, because I look at it that with smaller greens, the guys that kind of cook from 10 feet and in are going to gain strokes. Again, very cool part of this golf course. First 6 holes known as heaven. Next 6 known as purgatory. Final 6 known as hell. Heaven, by far your best scoring opportunity. You got 3 par 4s under 400 yards, 2 par 5s. Prevailing wind is typically downwind for most of these holes. So if your guys are not getting out early Thursday, you're going to be in trouble, because the next 6 holes is probably the toughest stretch, at least in the sense of pot bunkers and gorse bushes and just hazards. And then the final 6 are just so long. I mean, really long, even for today's standards, especially again because the prevailing wind on a majority of those holes back into the players' faces. You don't necessarily need great distance. We saw it last year with Harmon. That plays out every year in the Open, that you're going to get so much run out on these tee shots that obviously it helps, but it's more important to miss the trouble areas off the tee than it is to just, bomb it past everybody. I was mentioning to you before we went on the air that we've seen in the the US Open, the PGA and the Masters, it's like 80% of the last 8 champions at those events, top 10 in the field in driving distance. At this event, 0. So, it just kind of proves you got to get the ball in the right spot.
Absolutely.
Anything else that you were looking at, or want to point out for the venue only, and then we'll kind of get into our key stats and stuff.
Well, I guess specific to the course, if you were teeing off on Thursday, starting your major championship bid, would you rather start on the group of holes that's called heaven, or would you rather start in the back half of purgatory going to hell? What would you rather do to get your Open started?
Much like me in my afterlife, I want to go to heaven.
There you go.
I want to at least see what it's like on the other side. Instead of getting dragged, dragged through hell. So,
but on the other side of hell, you get to go to heaven. So it's, but I love the fact that they have it broken up into the groups of 6, 6, and 6, and then of course they name it purgatory and hell. But that's the origins of golf are certainly a lot different than the modern day golf. There's no doubt about it.
How can you not love golf and links golf and just everything that comes with it? Hearing something like that, it's one of my favorite things. The stats this week that at least I leaned into, there's a good bit of them. I really did look at driving accuracy. I mean, total driving, of course, but I emphasis on driving accuracy. Strokes gained approach is really big. Most of the shots are going to kind of come from 150 to 200, but I also think it's very important, like at a U.S. Open on a course like this, to be very good from 100 yards and within.
Yeah, because you're going to have a lot of those third shots trying to save par.
Exactly. Or if the par 5s are playing into the wind, some of these shorter par 4s, you got to take advantage of those. Scrambling is huge for me. Almost everybody in my lineup was probably top 50 in scrambling. And the bogey avoidance was another thing that I just leaned into, because if the weather holds that they're talking about, I do think this is going to be a little tougher than most people are thinking. I'm thinking more in like that 12 to 15, 12 to 16 range.
Yeah.
Most places I'm seeing 15 to 20. If we get 20-mile-an-hour winds, 3 out of the 4 days, I don't know. Back nine plays really long. It'll be interesting to see, too, if the distance becomes a bigger deal, if that back nine plays really long all week, into the wind, because those are the longer holes. What were some of the first stats that you kind of looked at, or what kind of players are you looking for this week?
I did go back and look kind of guys who had some success at the U.S. Open. It's comparing a little bit of apples to oranges, but at the same time, Pinehurst was brought back to the natural areas. The fairways were fairly generous, but once you got off the fairways, it's like you said with the gorse bushes and the random hazards. If you get real off the fairway, it can get thick and fescue. But guys who did well in the U.S. Open, based on, you have to have that luck, because you're not going to hit great tee shots all around. So when that ball does bounce, are you going to have an opportunity to hit again, or are you going to be stuck behind a little bush and all you can do is maybe go out sideways? There's a lot of luck that goes into it. Not that, they're going to be lucky again in this event, but guys who understand the importance of, you're going to get some bad breaks and you're going to get some good breaks, and you can't Tyrell Hatton it and just lose your mind but that's his MO. So it kind of works for him. But yeah, I was kind of looking at some of the guys that had success in the US Open, just because that's my most recent comparison.
So I know you're also a trend guy. That's one of the things that me and you found in common when we first started hanging out, making content and stuff together.
Yep.
There is a lot of trends heading into this event. The first one is just the Scottish Open has been a great indicator of success at this event. Remember, and I looked at just the last 2 years, it actually extends longer than that, but in 2022, the Scottish Open became a co-section event from the PGA, DP World Tour. The fields got deeper. So I really like looking at that, because that to me is more so of, than before that when the fields were a little weaker. But 23 guys made the top 10 the last 2 years. 21 of them made the cut the following week at the Opian Championship. We had, I think, 17 were top 25, 11 were in the top 10, 5 in the top 5, including Cam Smith, who won the event in 2022. And then 10 straight Open winners. I love these criteria. These are the kind of things that I spend way too much time trying to find. But
it matters. It matters.
Exactly. 10 straight is significant. That's what we talk about all the time. It's a real trend. Has at least a runner-up or better finish in any previous major start. They finished 15th or better in 3 of the 5 last events they played, entering the Open Championship. Entered the week 40th or better in the official world golf rankings. Had at least one top 3 finish that season on their tour, and at least one previous top 20 finish at the Open Championship. So I did lean heavily into guys that play links courses well, have played well at the Open, did well last year, and it was an added bonus looking at you, Robert McIntyre, if you played well at the Scottish Open. Adam Scott's another guy that's in my DFS lineup. I like what I saw out of him last week. And the one thing that I have been digging more into, and I'm going to put out any changes I make because there probably will be a few, is just really looking at who plays the best in heavy winds, because it's a huge advantage if we get 15 to 25 mile an hour winds multiple days. If you're somebody that really excels in it, it's very good for guys like Rory, Scheffler, like some of the best players in the world. I only think it enhances their chances of winning this tournament the more the wind blows than the opposite, because they're just so good in heavy winds.
Yeah. And I haven't looked at this, and I meant to. And links golf courses, they're links golf courses because they go out and then they come all the way back. How is Royal Troon situated compared to like their normal wind direction? Are we going to see a lot of downwind into the wind, or you think we're going to see more crosswind? Again, no, I haven't looked at it.
From what I understand, the prevailing wind is predominantly downwind.
Okay.
On the front side, and then predominantly into the wind coming back. Now, whether or not that's a straight line, I can't tell you, but
And that changes constantly too.
Exactly. So. And I mean, that's something they were talking about. I think it's either Friday or Saturday. They're talking about that could be a wind that you don't see a lot there. And those are usually the rounds that really give players, caddies, etc. Just fits because, I mean, even people that play golf at an amateur level understand that if you play in really windy conditions all the time, you kind of figure out how far to hit the ball, especially on your local or home courses you play all the time. You get somewhere else or you get into, conditions that you're not used to, all of a sudden, you're hitting your 7-iron 50 yards further than you ever have before, or your drive's going 180 yards and you're going, what in the hell is going on?
And I think it's a good point too, because a lot of people think, downwind's always easier. Yeah. Downwind's always, maybe off the tee, but you look at behind a lot of these greens, usually short in front of these greens, if you can avoid a pot bunker, is going to be a less of a mistake than hitting it way over into Lord knows what. So, just because it's downwind in certain things doesn't mean it always plays easier. Sometimes it can make it even tougher.
Same thing for off the tee, in fairness, right? Like, because there's bunkers and areas that these guys, if they can carry it, don't get me wrong, you're going to see guys like Bryson DJ, the guys that they're going to try to bomb it, Cam Young, those kind of guys. Yep. But say a wind's downwind that normally plays into, and all of a sudden you have a bunker 340 out, and you're thinking, I can carry this. Can you? It brings into, questions for these guys. And again, Brian Harmon last year dusted the field at a very similar venue by just playing really good golf. And that was
accurate golf,
high wind, kind of nasty conditions. So we could see that again this week. Do you want to, if it's cool with you, let's just kind of go through the betting card and we can kind of talk about guys as much or as little as we want to.
Let me ask you one quick thing. And it's all part of Great Britain, right? You got Ireland, you've got England, you've got Scotland, all part of that. But do you think having the Scottish Open, obviously that's in Scotland, but then to have a venue in Scotland makes it any different, maybe easier because obviously it's similar for each country over there, but I'm sure there's some certain things, like you said, like the prevailing winds and guys that maybe grew up playing in Scotland versus playing in Northern Ireland or even playing in England. And I don't know if there is a merit to that or not, but just want to get your thoughts.
I think more than anything, it's just an advantage that you get your body used to it, right? Because you can go over there and practice. And I'm sorry, I think that's different than going over there and playing in a tournament. That is their routine, absolutely. Right? Like that's what they do. So to actually get over there, and just basically treat it like a normal week and all the jet lag and all the other things you deal with, you get rid of that in the tune-up. And then by the time you're at the Open, I mean, obviously your body should have adjusted. So I think that's an advantage. And it's definitely, I think, an advantage, for the players on the course that they kind of get, used to. I mean, all links courses in many ways are the same. And that's why I made sure to point out that Royal Troon, really the only huge difference you'll see in this course between many other links courses, just it has tiny greens. I think Hoy Lake is the only other one that kind of has really small greens that is in the, the regular rotation. So, and it's always interesting to me to see how many of the PGA players really seem to enjoy and love playing this style of golf. The issue is the way the PGA Tour is set up right now. They just don't get very many opportunities to do that. But the PGA Tour is a bunch of idiots. So no surprise.
Interesting year.
Why do what the players want?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I always hate opening the betting book, and probably the two guys that if you just gun to my head, ask me the two guys that are most likely to win it, they actually have right, and they have them as 1-2. On the betting card. But Scheffler at plus 450, I keep saying it, I feel like plus 450 is value. I bet him at Augusta at plus 350. I bet him a few other times this year at plus 350, and I believe it's 60% of times that I've bet on him, he's won, and that's about his win rate for the season. It seems like.
And if you're a gambler, if you can win 60% of the time, you're doing
okay. And I just so much I hear about this venue and this course about how you need, patience, you need precision on irons, you need to be good around the greens, you need to be all good off tight lies. Like these are all Scotty Scheffler.
Pretty much everything.
And his putting is so much better than it was last year and early this year that I almost think it kind of gets ignored because of all the other great things he does. And his overall ranking is still not, even in the top 25% on tour, but it's so much better year over year. It's so much better over the last, 4 or 5 months. And it's just something about Scheffler, man. I think he's really special. We're still at the time in his career where he has not won enough to where I think there is a little value. And the fact that we're not getting plus 350 at a venue that, again, his worst finish at a link style course is 23rd. Out of 4. And that's also his worst finish for an Open Championship. I think there's a little value there. Rory at plus 850 is harder for me to get behind because it's been over 10 years. But so many things about Rory's game make sense for this as well. And he's another one.
Last week. And I mean, he's just, regardless if he hasn't won one in so long, he's just still a guy that you think of, like you said. Going back to Scotty, and you almost have to look for something that's like, oh, do you think this will affect him?
Right.
Do you think playing at Pinehurst #2 in the more link style golf course, he didn't have the success that, you expect him to win or finish second? Obviously, he still, made the cut and kind of finished towards the middle side of the field. Do you think any of that carries over to the Open Championship, or do you think that's just, I'm just looking for something?
No, I mean, I think it's a very fair concern. The only difference is I feel like that Pinehurst is one of those courses that really a foot mattered in trouble areas. And what I mean by that is when I say a foot can make the difference of a ball bouncing straight or wrong into a pot bunker, that's true, but you have to be over in that area. And Scheffler is so good of kind of avoiding trouble in general. I think his real frustration at Pinehurst was you could have a lie in the bunker and be 3 feet from, one of your playing partners, and he have a great lie and you have a horrible one. And I think that was where his frustration lied, was he never knew what he was going to get, when he hit an errant shot. Now, having said that, we're still also, it's easy to forget. It was only 2 majors ago that he got arrested going into, the second round of a major championship. And I spoke about then that I worried about scar tissue with him. And if you look at it, the U.S. Open would be in the favor of maybe there is some scar tissue there.
Yeah.
But
a new baby. I mean, that's another factor too. Like, obviously he's spending this early time and spending a lot of time being the dad stuff. Is that taking away from his normal practice? All his routines changed? I don't know. Again, kind of looking for things to be like, well, this is why you shouldn't bet Scheffler. But
you absolutely, but I mean, this is what you have to do. But I mean, to be honest, out of Scheffler, Rory plus 850, Xander 11-1, Oberg at 16-1 to me is just a perfect example of we've gotten way out of control. All the talent in the world. I'm not betting 16-1 on a kid that is this young. I'd rather look at live odds or something. Maybe, he starts a few shots down and you get a little better. Same thing really for Morikawa.
He's lifted an Open Championship trophy or the Claret Jug before, right? That was his second major.
The only difference, though, and I had to remind this when I was looking at recent results. St. Andrews in this venue, you kind of can't get.
You got to put it in.
Exactly. Like it's a totally different venue because there's a lot of guys that was their best major championship by far. Like a lot of these Americans and younger players. But if you look at it, that's not this kind of test. It's not Royal Liverpool kind of test. And then DeChambeau at 18-1 is another one that I want Bryson to do well. Like I am a huge fan of him. I love everything that he's done. I think he's so good for the game. But you have to flight your ball to play where at the Open. And he will be the first to admit that he struggles doing that he hits the ball so high. And I just think at 18-1, that's a dangerous play until you see otherwise.
Yeah, this is with Bryson specifically. This is the one where I feel like we're not going to see what we saw in the last 2 majors, just because. And he might admit it himself. Like I just don't think this style golf, like you said, the wind, I just think his game suits where he can just rip it without fear. And you can rip it here, but there's a lot of – and Pinehurst was the same example. And perfectly honest, he got lucky a bunch of times.
Yes, he did.
Especially in that final round. So, a couple balls are just a foot or two different. He's probably not hoisting the U.S. Open trophy. So I just, especially at 18-1, that's like, just burn money. But, he of course he could. Anybody could. But I just feel out of all the majors, since he's gotten so hot as of recent, and no, of course, I want to see him win again. He's awesome. He's a showman. He's just great for golf. But yeah, 18-1 is pretty nuts.
So I can hear Alan cussing me for saying this, but out of all those guys I mentioned, the top 6 that are all, 18-1 or lower odds, I would rather bet Scotty Scheffler at plus 450, bet 3-4 units, than bet 1 unit on any of the other guys.
Yeah, your chances of cashing it are so much better just because he's Scotty Scheffler, and he's clearly a step above everybody else when he's on. And, he has a little hiccup here and there, but he might come out this one with a vengeance.
All right, the next tier of guys, let's just go from the 20s through 40-1.
Okay.
Fleetwood, another guy that it makes me sick that he's 22-1. I'm rooting for Fleetwood. I love Fleetwood. It would make all the sense in the world that his first technical PGA win would be at an Open Championship. His first, major championship would be at an Open Championship. I can't bet him at the 7th lowest odds on the board to win. And again, I love Fleetwood.
I feel like he's getting 22-1 simply because he's from England.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, he's been very consistent.
Yeah, he's played well.
No Rahm at 25-1. Now we're starting to worry. See, you can talk me into this just for value. It's kind of like what we used to always say about Morikawa was if he got to be 25-30-1 after he won that first major and we'd seen him do it, I'd take it because of the talent, even if he was in good form, not in good form. And then the Open, it actually worked out for us a few years ago. Rahm is not in great form. He's the first to admit it, but at 25-1 in an event that he has slapped in for his career, really outside of last year, you could talk me into that. Hatton 28-1 again, interesting. His first ever Open Championship was here in 2016. He finished 5th. That was his very first start. It's got 2 other top 10s here. Again, to me, if you're looking at a course fit for Hatton, this is it. Because you got to be an elite ball striker. He's very good around the greens. The problem is he going to blow up and kill his caddy and a few spectators in the process? Maybe. The guys with arguably as much talent as anybody are both at 30-1. Koepka and Hovland. Yeah. Koepka, another new dad, right? That was actually pretty cute. Saw him on the range with his. I think it's his little girl, but they started whining, and I love he goes, it wasn't that bad. I thought that was pretty cool. And then Hovland, who we know is Jay Hendley of the Inside Drives boy. I do like what I've seen from him recently with his ball striking. I just don't know about his short game. And again, you got to be so good around the green, and his scrambling can be yikes sometimes. Dude, any of those guys like really tickle your fancy. That Fleetwood, Rahm, Hatton, Koepka, Hovland.
I think if I was to lean on one out of those 4, I'd probably lean on Hatton, just because I think if you talk about form and he's played this golf course well before, he's from the Great Britain. I think he's from England too. Yep. So like he grew up playing this style of golf. So I can't trust Rahm and Koepka right now for me because of their current form. Last year, obviously, it was a little different with both him and Rahm, doing really well in the majors. But, I think Jon Rahm he had a toe injury, and he's just kind of had – and you're going to have years like this in professional golf, and I think this is just the year that Jon Rahm is having. But, I'd probably take Hatton and then Koepka just because of the talent, winning 5 majors. He's been there, done that. And Hovland, until he shows me he can finish the deal, I'm just not ready for him yet.
And people forget Koepka actually started on the European Tour. He was somebody that went over to the DP World Tour, started actually on what was their Corn Ferry Tour. Yeah. Got on the DP World Tour, eventually to the PGA Tour. So he has a lot. He has not played great, though, in Opens recently. He has had some good finishes, obviously, kind of in the mid to late 2010s. The next range, man, you could pretty much sign me up for most of these guys. I love Lowry, love McIntyre, Cam Smith, another guy.
Yep.
I feel like this is the kind of venue that Finau, like I've always said, I think Open is actually where Finau would end up winning.
He's got a great ball flight for Open.
Yes, he does. And that's exactly what we'll get into. Hideki is a guy that, again, pretty good player at the Open. I don't like him at 45-1. We've talked about this on the show a million times that I need Hideki's odds like 60-1 or higher. Then I'm all over him when he's below that. Nope, not falling for it again. Tom Kim is very interesting. He is a guy that has excelled on link courses at a very young age. Like it's wild, man. And his 5 link starts, his worst finish is 21st. That includes 2 Open championships. So he obviously really likes the style of golf. I'll go ahead and tell you that McIntyre is in my lineup on my betting card. Kim is in my lineup on my betting card. But again, Lowry, you could talk me into, and Cam Smith. Like I love seeing his odds continue to creep up and creep up.
He's gonna win one again sometime.
Oh, for sure. And I think he's also another one of those guys that the harder it plays, I actually think it's good for him because he's so good around the greens and so good at just saving strokes. I think, maybe the best scrambler and putter in the field. I can definitely see him in contention, and I would love to see Finau. I also think there's a lot of value in this range in top 5 and top 10 bets because they don't let us have much fun on the winners anymore. It's kind of crazy what the odds are on these guys. But I mean, I really do like McIntyre at almost 9-1. It was 9-1 when I bet it earlier to top 5. Same thing. Cam Smith is 9-1 to top 5. You look how many top 5s he already has in his career in majors. Like Lowry plus 360 to top 10. If the weather's bad, that wouldn't shock me at all. The next range, again, guys, that the biggest mover this week, I want to start there because I don't trust Neiman. He's never had a good Open finish. Yeah. Like he's just, until he shows me something else. Louis Oosthuizen. I don't know who it was. It was Pat Mayo. One of those guys sent a tweet out. Who I love their work, but come on, guys, keep your mouth shut next time. He was 115-1 3 days ago.
What? And now he's 60-1?
So people have been pounding that. Clearly. And rightfully so. He's in great form.
Yeah.
He is somebody who excels on links courses. You talk about somebody that can flight the ball. That's Louis. And apparently the big thing is his short game numbers have been really good on Live Tour, which we still are having a hard time figuring out exactly what the correlation is of, doing that on Live Tour, smaller fields, et cetera. Yeah. But regardless, there's a lot of good players over there. And he's near the top and, scrambling and putting. That's always kind of been his weakness. So, love that. I think Sahith Theegala is like somebody that it would not surprise me if all come Monday. He has won his first major championship. He is a gamer. I like that he was in the mix last week. I know it didn't work out for him, but he is somebody who just is such a good ball striker that I think the more emphasis it is on, ball striking approach play, that's better for him. Fitzpatrick, I'm kind of down on this week. Same thing for Clark. But if you like them, I'm not going to even bat an eye. Any of those guys you particularly love this week?
I'm going to push it to the 65-1. And
yeah,
I think Adam Scott is he played great last week. He's always had good finishes at the Open Championship, and he's getting older, so the distance, he's still hitting it a mile out there. But this is a seasoned guy, and at 65-1 and 12-1 to top 5, I think I'm reading that correctly. I see some serious value in Adam Scott. But yeah, and you got Brian Harman floating around in this range. I just don't know. I feel like the Brian Harman win was probably a one and done major win, just because everything went right for him last week. Everything came together. He hit it good, and he just really hasn't returned to that kind of form since he won last year.
I will say he's in my lineup. I did not bet him to win. I do like him 12-1 to top 5 and 5-1 to top 10. He's still doing a lot of the things that matter at link style courses as well. He's 26 in driving accuracy, 15th in total putting. Big thing for me, he is first on tour scrambling from the fairway/tight lies. Nice. So that means he is still very good around these greens. You're going to have a lot of shots to do that, where you're going to just miss the green. You're going to be either putting up or down a big hill onto the green. And then what I really like, his last 5 links course starts, 21st is his worst finish and 3 top 12. So yeah, I agree with you. I didn't
love him in your lineup.
Yeah, I love him in my lineup.
He's going to make the cut. He's probably going to finish well, but
like
winning your top 5 is
I don't think he's worth, especially at 65 to 1 again, I'm with you with Adam Scott.
Yeah, like you said, give me 80 to 1 and maybe we'll think about it.
I hate myself, but I'm doing it. I am backing Cameron Young again. I can't let it go. I'm sorry.
It's a matter of time.
I hope so. I feel really dumb because I tell people all the time until somebody wins, but he's 60 to 1. His history at the Open Championship, 2 starts, worst finish is 8th. Any event that puts an emphasis on ball striking, Cam Young is one of the first names I think of. Another guy that I love is top 5 and top 10 odds. He's 12 to 1 to top 5, plus 550 to top 10. Again, his worst finish at an Open right now is 8th. And, the win I don't feel great about, but I feel 60 to 1 is good enough odds where I'm going to take a shot. I'm completely co-signing your Adam Scott. He's another guy for DraftKings I love this week. If you're doing DFS cash games, Adam Scott at 6,700 to me is one of the best values on the board. Now, he may be higher owned. So if you're in these multi-entries, you may not want to use them. And I get that, but in cash games, which for me is single entries, double ups, I'm looking for guys I know are going to make the cut. And Adam Scott is somebody, after seeing the way he struck the ball last week, I would be shocked if he does not make the cut this week. And he's also rolling the rock really well, which is a huge thing because normally when he putts well, he's in contention. The long shots, like the first name for me, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be for you because we talked about this when he was 100 and what was he, 120? I'm actually surprised it's only 30 down. He is 90 to 1, and that's Ashe Biate.
Yeah.
I texted you earlier that he was 120. That was back in what? I think right after the U.S. Open that he was 120 to 1.
You're like, jump on that.
He is now 90 to 1. I still like that value.
Yeah.
He's one of the best players in the world in heavy wins. There's a ton of that out there. If you go to Ron Kloss, he's PGA Splits 101, I believe, on Twitter. He has a lot of great data from BetSpert. Ashe Biate is near the top in every strokes gained category and significant wins, which is like 18 mile an hour or higher. So he is like literally the first name that jumps off the board to me in this area. Is there any other guys kind of in that 90, 100 or higher range, whether it be for a prop or, to win, that you really like?
I really like your boy Siwoo Kim to top 5.
Siwoo.
I mean, the 100 to 1 to win too is pretty solid, but that 18-1 to top 5, I don't have it on my paper of what the top 10 is, but I got to imagine it's more than 10 to 1.
I can tell you in 2 seconds. Well, not 2 seconds because I'm slow. Yeah. He is 7 to 1 to top 10. Pretty damn good.
That is real good for sure. And then, some of these other guys, Cousin Russell, I don't know. But do you look at some of these guys even deeper, like your boy Christian Bizenhout or
don't ask me to say it.
I know that's and I actually think you pronounced that one correctly. Denny McCarthy at 35 to 1 to top 5. I know we're getting pretty deep now, but he's been having a good year. He's in decent form, and 35 to 1 to top 5. Take a flyer for $10 and you could potentially win $350 on that. It's pretty solid. But and then Jay's boy Matthew Pavone. I wouldn't be shocked if when we do our picks tomorrow that Jay does not pick Pavone. 2,000 or 200 to 1 and 35 Matthew 2,000 to 1 and 40 to 1 to top 5.
What about your boy DJ? Could you ever believe that we're getting him at 120 to 1 to win, 22 to 1 to top 5, 9 to 1 to top 10?
I think it's purely because of the Live Tour and like his sample of his golf on quote unquote a PGA Tour or these majors. He just hasn't played that great. But I think you nailed it when we talked about this last time. Like there's going to be a second wave, kind of like a lot of guys when they hit their 40s. Vijay Singh did it. Phil Mickelson did it. A lot of these guys, they kind of got that second wave in their 40s, and I could see DJ doing that. That's for sure. But it's crazy value, but his majors this year aren't too great, especially the U.S. Open. That was a disaster, but
not a venue though that sets up well for him even on a payday.
Nope, and he had PTSD about all the waist bunkers.
Yeah.
I get that. What about you? What do you think in some of these high odds categories?
I love Victor Perez. Another one of these guys. I'm not even going to do a bet to win. Could he win? Of course, but he's the Frenchman. He's been on the PGA Tour. been playing really well this season. I think he has 3 top 10s on tour. Finished 10th last week. Won us some more money. We had that one at 9-1 as well in the article. You can get him at 12-1 to top 10 and plus 550 to top 20. I like both of those very much. Also love him for DFS. I believe he's 6,300. Kurt Kitayama is another guy you could talk me into. He's I believe 6-1 to top 20. He's a guy that plays well on links courses, plays well at the Open. Now Ben Griffin is a guy you could talk me into throwing a couple of bucks down at 250-1 to win. He is, I believe, 18-1 to top 10. Griffin is another guy that from Texas. We know how those Texas guys that they're used to playing in very windy conditions. Yep, they know how to do it. So I like those odds very much. Going further down the board, you could talk me into maybe like a Podrick Harrington top 10. Yeah. I believe he is plus 850, or excuse me, I think it's plus 800 to top 20, 22-1 to top 10. The harder it plays, the more the wind blows, the better. Gordon Sargent, I keep mentioning him at every event. I know I said this is not an event made for bombers necessarily, but just so much talent. He's 400-1 to win. I'm not going to bet him to win, but
I've got him to top amateur.
What is his top amateur odds?
I think he's 4-1 top amateur.
I like that a lot.
Him and one other guy had that, and the rest of the names I didn't really know. I'm sure there are a lot of people from Europe on there, but I mean, he's played in what? Has he played in every major this year? And
I believe he has.
He played the Masters,
PGA, right? They don't get into the PGA, do they?
No, he didn't play in the PGA. Yep, he didn't play in the PGA, but he did play in the Open, the Masters, the U.S. Open, the Masters, and the Open Championship. He didn't make the cut in the Masters, but I don't think he might have made the cut in the U.S. Open. I just know that it went down to Neil Shipley and Luke Clanton in that final round.
I think there's real value at Gary Woodland, 10-1 to top 20. Another guy who excels on links courses, excels in windy conditions. Yep. And just for a top 20, I'm getting 10-1 odds. He's got a good track record in this event. You can sign me up for that. And I'm trying to find – this is where they don't have any fun, but I still like it. Henrik Stenson is 8-1 to top 20. We know he won the event here in 2016. I didn't even know Henrik Stenson was still playing competitive golf. And then last year he went out and had a good Open Championship. If you have followed – does he play on it? I guess he does. I don't watch it, man. This is why I need to watch it.
I think he's on the Live Tour.
But it is amazing that if you've always watched the Open Championship, used to be known as British Open, there's these guys from the European Tour that even after they're well past their prime, though it's kind of like, Tiger and those guys at Augusta, they just show up. Fred Couples, those guys, they show up and all of a sudden they're right there. So again, and they have to have distance. That's why I really like Harrington. He's also 8-1 to top 20. Stenson, if they really haven't lost distance, they know how to get around on those courses. Usually Absolutely. The harder it plays, the better it is. And then I do want to just mention him briefly. Mickelson.
Yeah.
What's going on, man? Phil, it's me and Phil have been a roller coaster of a love-hate deal where I hated him. I would never say I loved him. I got to where I really respected him. And then, he won that PGA, and I was like, oh, shit, Phil may win multiple majors, in his 50s.
Yeah.
And it just feels like he doesn't give an F anymore. It feels like that PGA was like, look, I'm never going to win the U.S. Open. I got one more major that nobody thought I would win. I'm the oldest guy, so screw everybody. I'm rich. I'm just going to hang out.
And he went and played on the Champions Tour a little bit before the whole Live thing came up, going out there. I think he won, a couple of them that he played in, and then he's like, oh, I can go get paid to go over the Live. I'll do that and, clear up all my gambling debts and maybe play a little golf here and there. So,
I don't think you ever clear up your gambling debts if you're Phil Mickelson.
No, because you just keep going.
That's so sad. What's the YouTube guy? He played 18 holes. I heard it just got posted this week. He's got to wear, I think, joggers one of the rounds because he lost the back nine to him. I'm pretty sure that was the bet is what I read today. So nice. Pay attention for that. But do you think his best day, because he's another guy, he's plus 850 to top 20, which Phil still can stripe it. He's still a ball striker.
I think it's passed him by at this point. I think there's too much other stuff that he's gotten involved with in his competitive fire. I think if he didn't win that PGA at Kiowa, maybe it's a different story. But like you were saying, nobody thought he should have won it. Oldest guy to ever win a major. Or was it a major or the PGA?
It was the oldest to win a PGA. I think it was the oldest for a non-open to win a major, I believe. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that kind of – it doesn't replace not winning a U.S. Open, but you kind of stole one that nobody expected you to have, so that kind of makes
Not only stole it, you faced down Brooks Koepka, who was the baddest mofo on the planet for 18 holes. He played so good. The shot that he hit on 17, oh, my God, the par 5. Whew.
Yep. That's like with Phil, like when he gets into that, it was like Tiger a little bit, but when Phil gets into that, confidence, cocky, and he starts, but I just haven't seen that from him in so long. So I just don't know, like you said, if not caring is probably not the right phrase, but he's just not all in like he used to be.
I like that. That's why you host a radio show and I don't. I like that phrasing a lot better. So you're going to make me pivot off Phil because I agree with you. So I am going to go ahead and recommend Stuart Sink 14-1 to top 20. Another guy that hits it plenty far, has a stellar Open record. We know he won the Open. I think it was like an 09.
Yep.
Sink is somebody that I like seeing these high wins. Like to me, some of these props and stuff, you have just as good odds. I actually think better odds of one of these guys hitting the top 20, top 10 that we just talked about. Than even betting on, Oberg or some of these guys at like 16-1, DeChambeau 18-1, where I just don't feel like it's a great fit. Let's do just a little DFS and then we'll get out of here because I realize we've almost talked for an hour and I know you probably want to see the end of the All-Star game if I haven't ran my mouth all the way through it. On DK, again, you obviously know Scheffler and Rory are the two guys that I have in the most lineups. I know you're going, Keith, wow, we stuck around this long to hear you say you're going to play Scheffler and Rory. Thanks for that.
Well, you almost have to, right?
I think you do because, I think that those are two guys I'm most confident are going to be around on the weekend, like in contention, I mean.
Yeah.
Like there's a great chance they're going to be top 5. And the other reason is just I freaking love the 8,200 to 7,200 range where I can do that, throw in like a Tom Kim at 8,200, or I can build a hat and go even cheaper with the rest of my lineup. But I can put one of them in a Tom Kim or a Hatton, who again I think both are great bargains, and then for cash games, which I'm doing, I think they're going to make the cut. Yeah. And I mean, like the rest of my lineup, for instance, like the official lineup, I have Scheffler at 12.8, Kim at 8.2. And then McIntyre at 7.7, Harmon at 7.6, Theegala at 7.2, and Perez at 6.2. And then I sprinkled in lineups where Rory swaps for Scheffler. Those are most lineups I spend up and get Hatton. And I have a ton of Cam Young and Adam Scott also in those lineups. Cam is 7,500. Scott is 6,700. If you want to do Beate, who I was talking about earlier, he's only 7K. Like there's so many guys that I really like from, 7,200, 7,000 to like the 8,200 range that if it's not Scheffler and Rory, say you're not like me and you don't like those guys. I think you should play Bryson. I think you should play Koepka. Like, I think you should play Morikawa. Like, whoever of those top guys you like, I actually think it's you take one or two of those guys and then play a ton of those guys 8K and below. Yeah, rather than trying to build a lineup with, say, 3 in the 5,000-6,000 range, because you can do that for the Open. I think they go all the way down to 5,000 this week in price.
Big field, yeah.
But, again, for somebody that does cash games like I do, I am specifically looking at, are you going to make the cut, and do I think you're going to be in contention? And that's kind of how I ended up with those guys. Do you have any guys for DFS? And, I mean, it can even be, kind of long shots because, not everybody likes to do cash games. I think that's what you should do. But if you want to do multi-entries, you need to get creative. You need to, think off the board and try to play guys that other people are not. Some of the names that we were talking about earlier, like the Stuart Sinks and stuff of the world, Padraig Harrington's, like those are good plays in MMEs if they have a good week. But I would definitely stay away from, obviously like Rory and those guys. Koepka seems like he's flying under one. And Rahm is another guy I just want to say for MME. If I was doing MME lineups this week, I would definitely have Rahm and a good bit of them because I don't think anybody's, betting, putting them in there or running to put them in their lineups, especially at 10,000 when you look at the form of the other guys in that range. But, I mean, he's done so well here before. It would not shock me if, he's right there.
I could see some of the guys. I'm guessing they're probably in the 6 to 7,500 range. But if you're looking for some of those others besides who you mentioned, maybe guys like Aaron Rye, who's been playing real well right now.
He's in the 6Ks for sure.
Yeah, so there's a good. If you're going the high with Scotty Scheffler at the 12.8, you need to find that 6th spot. And then also a name that we hadn't talked about that I wouldn't sleep on, and because he's got some excitement going on in his life and probably feeling pretty good.
7,300, but I still like that price.
That's still right in that honey hole. But Keegan Bradley, not playing the greatest, but not playing the worst, and all of a sudden now he's the
6,600 this week.
That just seems like if you're looking for somebody in that range, he might fit that mold just perfect for you. He's going to be excited. He's playing golf. Maybe he can play his way onto his own Ryder Cup team. I don't know, but he should be.
Wow, do you know his finishes in the majors this year?
Tell me.
It's impressive. 22nd at the Masters, 18th at the PGA, 32nd at the U.S. Open.
And he came off from a good season last year, kind of a resurgent season last year. So, Keegan may be somebody to think about.
I like that a lot. At 66, he's another guy, too, that typically plays very well in heavy winds, which, again, that could end up being a big thing. Oosthuizen, another guy that I mentioned, he's 68. Your boy Siwoo Kim, 6,800. That's what I'm saying. There's so many guys.
Yeah.
In this way, Hendley, 6,700. I know let a ton of people down, including myself last week. My cash game lineup would have been really good at cashed with On missing the cut, but he is somebody who has historically done very well on links courses. He's a ball striker. He hits it well on the wind. You had mentioned Buzenhout. He's in that range. I feel like for majors, you do want to get creative, again, for cash games, but it's more just so you can spend up and have one or two big hitters in your lineup. But I think it's too risky in cash to be getting in that 5,000 range. I mean, if you really feel confident about somebody, shoot your shot, like Stuart Sink, for instance, 5,600. I feel pretty good. Sink's got a good chance to make the cut. But, Woodland's 5,700. There's another guy that, he's kind of right in that range where I feel pretty good, but I would rather spend up the extra 500, and have, a Perez or, one of these guys, even Matt Wallace, for instance, or we talked about Stenson. He's 6,200. It does matter that they've had a good track record at the Open.
Absolutely.
And again, if you go, I believe it's PGA Splits 101. But either way, Ron Close on Twitter has so much good stuff. If you go back, he has, I know for a fact, both recent Open championships going all the way back to 2015 for every player in the field, as well a tweet with every player in the field strokes gained on links courses going back to 2014, both total and average. And I'm not going to lie, that's kind of where I started. And don't get me wrong, I branched out from there, but I want to know that some guys play these courses better than others. You look at Tom Watson, right? He almost won this thing at 59 years old. Well, he had won 5 of them. So it's, not that surprising.
He likes that type of golf.
But any other thoughts or whatever on the tournament before we get? Oh, let me ask you this real quick, because I think, and this may be a hot take, that we're maybe 2 more Olympics away from an Olympic gold medal being the equivalent of 1.5 to 2 majors, because it happens once every 4 years. We've got a good base with Justin and Xander. And I think especially if, one of these big names wins it, say the next 2, I think it really becomes a big thing. And I'm very excited about the Olympics being in golf again this year.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate on that one just because of the field in the Olympics. Obviously, your Americans dominate with, the best players in, let's call it the top 40 in the world. So you're only getting 4 Americans and 4 people from, 4 people from each country. So I understand what you're saying, but I do see it watered down a little bit just because of the competition.
But wouldn't you say that that's the same in all Olympic sports? Or because, in most of them, isn't there at least, a sport where, one country dominates?
Well, and there's a lot of sports where that is their highest level that they can play
That's fair.
Where golf is, it is high, but I don't think it's the highest level they can compete on.
That's very fair. I just look at it because it's once every 4 years.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
Even if you have, say, a 30-year career that's incredible, you'd be lucky to get 7, shots at that thing. So
you need to tweet at Schauffele and be like, hey, Xander, gold medal, or 2 majors?
I'm pretty sure right now he's going to say 2 majors because he's already got the gold medal.
The gold medal.
Absolutely. But the other thing that really interesting, and I was not aware of, it's been more than 30 years since 4 Americans have swept the golf majors.
Wow.
And we are 1 major away from the 4th consecutive American to win a major. The Open Championship, ironically, has been one of those that I know in the last few years that shifted, but for a long time, the Americans were doing very well in this event. Do you think that we get another American to win this thing this week and get the clean sweep?
I'm going to say yeah. I think if I was to put a bet on it, I would say yeah. Yeah.
I wonder what I'm sure that you can probably bet that on one of the sites.
I know you can bet nationalities and all that, but I don't know if you can bet the nationality to win other than like the top in each nationality. I'm looking on.
Now it's going to piss me off because I was going to try to find you exactly when it last occurred. I know it's been at least 30 years. I want to say it may have been the 80s. And as I get older, I keep realizing that.
Yeah, the 80s was
40 years ago. You're fucking old. But without the exact number, I don't want to say that. But I know it was at least 30 years. I remember being like, wow, it's been that long since Americans swept the majors. But it kind of gets along to the thing that we've talked about numerous times, that I feel like that Tiger's 15 is greater than Jack's 18. And if any of these guys get to 10, it's because the game has expanded. It's global, right? It's harder to win now than it's ever been. And
John Rahm won the Masters last year. And John Rahm won the U.S. Open in 2021.
Right.
Shane Lowry in 19. Francesco Molinari.
I know we had Stinson in 16.
Sergio won the Masters. Danny Willett won the Masters.
Scott won the Masters. Wai Yang won the PGA all the way back. I mean, it's been a long. I know I'm almost positive it was the mid or late 80s, but it has been a long time since we've had 4 Americans. Which one?
I'm looking at flags all over the place, so it's kind of blending. But 97 Els won. What's the second category? U.S. Open, yeah. And we were 3 Americans there, so we had several years. If Phil Mickelson just wouldn't have screwed the pooch at Winged Foot, we would have had Tiger, Phil in the majors in that one, and then the previous year was Tiger, Michael Campbell, Phil, and Tiger.
So the Tiger Slam year, now that I'm thinking about it, who won the Masters in 2000?
In 2000,
who gave him the green jacket?
VJ. Remember, VJ won that one.
Because I was going, well, damn, he won 3 of them. How did we not sweep that year? Right. So see, it's been a minute. I mean, you're already at
1982.
There you go.
1982. Tom Watson or Craig Stadler won the Masters. Raymond Floyd won the PGA, and then Tom Watson won the Open and the U.S. Open.
Again, Tom Watson was a bad mofo.
Oh, he was. When he was in his peak, he was – so that was, 42 years ago?
God. And what's sad is 42 years ago, and I was already born. So
it's not sad. That just means you're seasoned. So that's
man, it's pretty sad. But – well, Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on the show. You got anything you want to plug? I know, obviously, the Inside Drive on ESPN Northwest Florida and Liam's, growing social media influence as
I bit the bullet.
QB champ. I love it.
I had to do what all the other kids were doing. I'm just a follower.
Dude.
But yeah, and of course, if you're down here in the beautiful world's most beautiful beaches and you're looking for an investment property, a house, whatever it may be, Beach House Sales and Development. Got to plug my beautiful bride.
That's right. Well. The better half.
Absolutely. Big time better half.
Should we plug golfwithjay.com? JayHendley.com?
Absolutely. Keep it in the fairway. See you on the next tee. Golfwithjay.com. You can do the trifecta. You can listen to the radio show. And you don't have to be down here to listen to the radio show. It's streamed live. We're back on Twitch now again. So we're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. And, of course, if you have our mobile app, you can listen anywhere that you are. Obviously, local frequencies as well. But we always appreciate this, Keith. Always a good time. And looking forward to having you on the show tomorrow. Yeah, man, it's seriously one of the best shows out there. Ryan and Jay are very entertaining, and I just it's the way sports talk shows to me should be. You guys have fun. Obviously, you talk about all the stuff,
in sports.
We try to cover all aspects of sports.
But they also like to have fun. And again, I wish Jay was here, because for y'all that have caught Jay on previous shows, Jay is what you call the talent, right?
Yes.
And by talent, I mean there's no telling what he's going to do or say, i.e., he never texted us. We just assumed he was coming. SUC. He's like, no, I'm not coming. I got to hang out with my dog.
He fell asleep in his recliner too quickly.
That's probably very fair. But there's a lot of good stuff on Fantasy Six Pack. Be sure to check that out. We've been doing divisional previews for fantasy. As Ryan was saying, it's the best time of year. Football is right around the corner. So a lot of cool stuff. Be sure to check out, again, Fantasy Six Pack. Subscribe to YouTube channel if you're not. Check out the website, fantasysixpack.net. And hopefully me and Alan will be back doing a golf show at some point. But he's just had a really busy year. Unfortunately, had a family thing here. But I'm going to get him on the air before the golf season ends and we move into football. But you can check out Alan on ESPN Richmond. And you can follow him on Twitter at ActivityLazy85. And if you're listening to this, follow Ryan. Okay, he hosts an ESPN radio show. He doesn't
share all your
shit. He doesn't hold himself out like I do. I always be like, follow me. I'm telling you now, follow him. He's a great guy. It's at Ryan Mulvey 85. And hopefully it's a great week at the Open Championship.
I'm looking forward to it.
You know, if the worse the weather, the better, because I'll be inside again in the AC while it's 100 degrees outside and it's fucking melting in Georgia, but that's okay. Yeah. But for Ryan Mulvey, Keith Flemming, this has been 2 Off the Tee on Fantasy Six Pack. You guys have a great one.
Appreciate you, Keith. Take care.
Yes, sir.